Hello, hello, everyone. I'm back again. Amy Thurman here with day 5 of 100 Days, 100 Emotions. You guys, today we're talking about anger. You knew this was coming. Surely you knew this was coming. This is going to be one of them. Today's the day. We've talked quite a bit about emotions that we would consider positive, but there are also negative ones too. And so we have to address those and talk about those too, because they can be helpful. We can learn from them. And so that's what today is about. We're going to be talking about anger. I have a great friend that is willing to help me discuss this today. My friend Faithann, I met her at an in person networking event. I'm going to tell you guys, like, she is an amazing networker. Like, if you, first of all, I know a lot of you watching have podcasts, your podcast hosts. If you want someone to talk about how to network in person, Faithann is your gal. Let me tell you, she knows all about it. She is like a master networker. And I'll tell you some more about her later. But let me bring her on here. And hello, Faithann. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Amy. Thank you for those kind words. I have a lot of fun doing it, and so I thank you for building me up in that way.
Of course, and you can tell that you enjoy doing it because it just seems so natural. Like, I think I made this comment on one of your reels about how comfortable you made me feel. You're so welcoming. You just want everybody to feel welcome there, and I really appreciate it. You have made an impact on my life in that way. So I'm happy to tell you that in
You,
front of all these people.
I appreciate that very much. That's
Yeah,
certainly the goal.
good, good. Okay, so today we're talking about anger. I think today we'll jump right in and let you start with your story, and then I'll pull up our text and we'll talk a little bit about that. So take it away, Faith Ann.
All right. So this happened um, earlier this year. My daughter is 15, and she has been participating in piano for many years. As part of participating in piano, you go to contests, and often you go to contests at these big facilities. She happened to be participating in a contest. She was invited to participate, so you have to get a certain level at a regional, and then you go up to a next level. So she was invited to participate in a contest on the OU campus in their music hall. Let me paint the picture of the crowd that we were talking about at these contests. Picture 1987 First Baptist Church of Moore, the foyer. So we're talking about lots of people dressed up, 9-year-old boys in dress shirts, and 11-year-old girls in dresses and bows in their hair. This is a very conservative. There's a reason why I'm telling you this. Okay, now this is a conservative crowd. A lot of homeschoolers, a lot of denim jumpers, a lot of quiet people. Conservative. The kids are rocking the piano. They've been invited to be there, so they're all very good. And we were privileged to go and participate in this contest. Now, when you go to the contest, you are given a time that you are going to play, and there's several pianos all throughout the building, several rooms. So you have to make sure you're there on time so that you can play at the time that you are allotted, because you don't want to back everything up, make it hard for the next person to play. So we were running just a tad bit late. We were going to be in the building at her time was 8:30. We were going to be in the building at 8:30, but we weren't going to be like ready, like going to the
Right.
registration table, finding your room in front of your room at 8:30. So I was a little bit stressed about that. So we opened the door to the concert hall, the building, and the nanosecond we open that door, a security guard comes rushing up to us, big, gruffy, burly guy, and he says, "You can't come in here."
Jeez.
And we're in the building. Like, what do you mean we can't come in? He goes,
Yeah.
"I'm setting up security. It's not ready yet. You can't come in here." Okay. So we're taken aback, and we sit down at the little bench, and I mutter under my breath, like, "Well, golly, you don't have to be a jerk about it." And he's going back and forth between this closet and where we are, because you know how when you go into like a concert, there's the little loopy, the the security things that check you
Right.
for knives and stuff. Now
Right.
remember, we're talking about 11-year-old boys and 13-year-old girls in dresses and denim jumpers. That's the crowd we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
And he's so concerned that his security is not set up yet. These little loopy things aren't ready yet. That's not my fault that they're not ready.
Right.
I was invited. So my daughter was invited to be here at 8:30 to play her piano piece. That's all I know. I don't know nothing about security, right?
And we're here, right?
Right. So he's going back and forth, and I'm just getting angrier and angrier. Like, how dare you keep me? Like, I gotta be in the front of a judge at 8:30 so my daughter can play her piece. I'm invited. Like, I'm not just crashing this contest. I'm
Right. Not just
inviting
walking
my
off the
daughter.
street.
Right. And he's hemming and hawing. And then from inside the building, it looks like somebody who's in charge of the contest approaches the security guard, and they start talking, and he's yelling at her like, no, we have a graduation to get ready for, and they can't come in. It's security. I don't have a security. And so she backs off, and so now he's crossing my path, and I'm a little bit more bold, because now it's not just me you're being rude to. You've got other people involved. And I said, you are being extremely rude. And he stops and he looks at me and he says, I have a graduation to get ready for. And if you don't like it, you can wait outside. Now we're like, really?
We're in it. Like it
We're in it.
started.
And my heart, and I'm just like,
Oh, yes.
And I'm not waiting outside. Good night. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So what happens, it's funny, because what happens is he then proceeds to go back to his closet to get more of his security things. And the organizer motions to me, and several of us are standing there, and she goes, come on. So we just go. Now, that is not like the crux of my story, but that's the setup. It should have stopped right there, because now I'm allowed to come in. Everything's fine now. He's not even an effective security guard. Like, he couldn't even keep me, a bunch of 11-year-olds, out. So he's just a doofus. So that should have, right? That should have ended there. Well, it didn't end there for me. So I'm hot. And I walk up, and there's registration tables. And now, we have like 19-year-old girls in denim jumpers. So the people behind the registration are just volunteers. Their moms and dads, maybe their kids used to participate in a contest, or maybe their daughter is like, these are just normal people. Well,
Right.
I walk up, and the first girl that I lay eyes on, now I've taken that baton of anger, I've grabbed it, and I'm going to pass it on. So I said, there's going to be several parents that are going to be late to this, because there's a security guard and he's not letting people in. And he's being a real wick about it. And I didn't use W. Okay. Now, this poor girl, all she knows is, she's got to get people from room A and room B and room 314. That's all she knows. She knows nothing of what has prior happened. And it's not her cross to bear. This is not something that she has anything to do with. And I unload on her, and she just says, okay. So we find our room, and we go upstairs, and we're sitting in the hallway with a bunch of other participants waiting for Sarah to play. And I start texting, because I'm still really hot. I start texting like, guess what happened? And somehow in my mind, when I replayed the story to my husband via text, I said, yeah, and I told this girl that there were going to be people late, and that the security guard was being a real jerk. And my daughter, somehow she read it or something. I don't remember exactly. She said, Mom, you didn't say jerk. And I said, I didn't say jerk. And she said, no, you said wick. But she used the D.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I was pretty convicted. Two things struck me. Why did I change it whenever in my mind, in my memory, I changed it? I switched it so that I would be less of a jerk myself. And why did I take that security guard's baton? Why did I take it and pass it? There was him being angry because we were walking in and he wasn't ready, had absolutely nothing to do with me or my daughter. It had nothing to do with me. So why in the world do I need to take it on? I don't. So I felt convicted. And so when of course, she played beautifully. We come downstairs and I walk up to the poor girl that I had attacked. And I leaned in and I said, I want to apologize for my language earlier. Mm-hmm. And she goes, thank you. And that told me that I learned, oh, I did a number on this girl, because she didn't say, oh, she didn't do that. She said, thank you. I was in the wrong. I had no business doing that to her. And I felt really bad. In the morning, I'm like, I'm going to take my daughter to a piano contest. And it turns out I learned. So I learned that I have an anger issue. And what's interesting is when I was like 12, I had a brother who's about 18 months younger than me. And he's the one that blustery and he's a sweetheart of a guy now. Like he's a sweetheart. But when we were kids, at least in my mind, he was the one always going off the handle. So I was telling my mom, I said, man, John he's got an anger problem. And she looked at me and she said, Faithann, you have an anger problem too. Wow. And I was like, no, I don't. And then all these years, so my anger simmers more though. That's the problem, is my anger. And all these years later, I'm like, oh, that's probably what she was talking about. And what the part that I should learn from is that I have a tendency that this is a thing with me. And if I'm not careful, I can't do that again. I just can't do that. And the fact that I changed in my mind, I changed what I'd actually said, means that I have a tendency to downplay what has happened. And probably I have done that before. I probably have made other people feel that way before, but I didn't remember how it actually happened. And so therefore I wasn't able to make it right, because I'm like,
you right in the moment. Oh my goodness, Faithann, this is so good. So many things in here. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to talk about this. Like, I know what you mean. My mom has always said, Amy, you're like a lamb. Like, you will take so much, just so calm. But then if you push me too far, she said, that lion comes out and it's like, there's no stopping you. And so I hear you saying that once you get to that point, it's like, oh, it's all breaking loose now. We're on. But I also heard you say that your heart was racing, that you were heated, which that's where that term comes from, heated, because we start to feel literally like hot, burning with this anger. It makes us feel this heated sensation, like we have to do something about it, or we have to do something with it. That's what I find in my life, is that, and your story is a perfect example of this, that we'd have to do something with it. And most of the time it involves sharing it with other people, or bringing other people into it, or taking it out on them when they had nothing to do with it. And so I think it's so important recognizing that, which is what you just said, recognizing that pattern of, this is what I tend to do. This is what happens to me. This is a pattern. And so what I have to do is I have to recognize the pattern, but figure out how to break it, how to break the cycle when I'm in the moment. And that's a tough thing to do. That's so hard to do. But because I'm aware, I have trained myself to become more aware of, oh, this is what's happening. When I'm feeling that, like, this is my thing with anger, that when I feel that emotion, when I feel that hot, like I'm just going to explode, that's when I know I've got to break it. Something's got to stop. I got to change something. I can't continue on this way, or I'm going to hurt someone else, bring someone else into this that doesn't need to be involved. Right. And so I go inside and I'm like, okay, what can I do? And I take deep breaths, 30 Dr. Tanya shared with us the 4 count breathing the other day. I do that. I take deep breaths. Sometimes, I mean, we're being real right here. Sometimes, if it's just so overwhelming, I've done this before. I take like a washcloth and I
Mm,
go into the bathroom and I just start slamming the washcloth against the counter. Like it's like sometimes you physically have to get it out. And so
right,
that's my way of, I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just using my body to get it out somehow, um, in a more productive way so that I can move past it.
right.
Um, I want to pop this up here and let's talk about this for just a second. When you recognize your anger, you're better equipped to manage and control it, which is what we were just talking about. The key to transform the raw power of anger into the key is to transform the raw power of anger into a force that empowers you rather than controls you.
Hmm.
And I see, like from your story especially, you have empowered yourself now. Like you're recognizing that pattern. You're saying, okay, this is the pattern that I usually follow. I'm aware of it now. Now I can be empowered to change that or do it differently. Do you feel that?
Yes, it's almost like a scariness. I think the scariness of it is better for me. It's when I'm in that moment, now that I know that later the story I'm going to tell myself is not going to be the real version of the truth, and that regret, I think it's going to be very helpful for me to say, "Oh, wait a second. This I because I would have never used that word if I was in my right mind. I would have never gone up to a bunch of church people and said that word. I wouldn't have. Like, what a terrible thing to do. What a nasty thing to do. It's not representative of who I am. And yet, that anger just said, "Oh no, it was just raw emotion." And yes, the we need to, when we're having that emotion, I need to find a way to turn it around, and uh, you don't need to think so highly of yourself that you expect every person in the world to just bow down or just be cordial. Sometimes people are just rude. And that stemmed from him. Like his morning probably didn't start very well at all. Like he was probably really stressed and he just wasn't able to manage it. And so it translates to him standing in front of me saying, "If you don't like it, you can just wait outside." Yeah. Highly ineffective.
Right.
But it's like I'm not going to be able to like if I don't get this under control, I'm going to say things and do things that are not representative of me, and that would be really bad.
Yeah. And, what you just said is pretty much emotions are contagious. Like they have an energy, they have a vibration to them. And so when he started with his stress, putting
Hmm.
it on you, then you absorbed that, took it to the next person. That's how it works unless someone breaks the cycle.
Right.
And so, remaining aware of what you're feeling in the moment, in those instances, then I can refuse to accept another person's energy or another
Right.
person's what they're trying to put on me. I imagine myself in a tube, like I put a tube of light around me.
Mhm.
It's like a protective, like a lipstick tube,
Right.
right? Imagine that.
Yeah.
I just put myself in like a lipstick tube and I see it as protecting me from other people's emotions that they're trying to,
Right.
put on me that way. And so to me, that's helpful because it's a visual. I can see it in my mind and I feel like, okay, I'm in my little lipstick tube. I'm good, you
I'll
know?
try that. I'll try that.
Yeah.
Or just no thank you. I'm not taking that baton. No thank you. I'm not in, this is not a race I want to be in. No thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Cuz
I'm not going to,
we were doing everything we were supposed to be doing. It's not like there's no reason for me to become elevated like that because we weren't doing anything wrong. It was him. And he probably, like I said, I mean, what we saw was probably not everything that was going on with him.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And in my life, when I come up against someone like that, I'm like, that's not the person I want to be. I
Yeah.
don't want to exude that type of energy. So I'm not going to absorb it. I'm going to
Mm,
stay in my little lipstick tube and protect myself from that. and you can go share it with someone else, but I'm not going to pass that on because that's not who I am.
Right.
But that takes some training, like literally it's practice, because in the moment, anger is so powerful. It's such a powerful emotion. Instantly, we know, well,
Oh,
all of us have experienced anger. It can take over in an instant. So
yeah.
it does take some practice for sure. On the other hand, it can be used as good for good, like anger, like they call it righteous anger,
Mhm.
where you're angry because someone is being unjust to another person, which is, in a sense, what you were trying to do too, when he was being ugly to other people. But, to take on a cause that's bigger than ourselves because we're angry at the way people are being treated or that kind of thing. So it can be used as good too. So I just want to throw that in there. Okay, so let's see. Oh, we have a comment. Let's see. Rick, thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here. Rick says anybody can become angry. It's easy, but to be angry with the right person and to the right degree and at the right time and for the right purpose and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power and is not easy.
It's not.
Aristotle. Oh,
Mhm.
I've got chills, Rick. That's giving me chills just listening to that, reading that. It's so good. So, so good. So, it's not easy. It's not something that everybody can just do. It takes work, it takes practice. And a lot of people, because it's hard, don't want to do it, don't want to practice, don't want to even try. And
Right.
so, oh, that's so good. Thank you, Rick, for sharing that. Okay, so if you have watched these before, I have an AI image generator and I ask it to create an image that represents an emotion. So today I ask it to create an image that represents anger. So this is interesting. Let's take a look at that. Let me go here and full screen
Ooh.
this. I know. Check this out.
Exactly. Yes.
I
Yes.
know. Isn't it wild?
Yeah, that was me for sure.
Yeah. I'm just like, I could picture myself just standing in the middle of that.
And what is interesting too is like so how how the everything seems to be going up and out.
Hmm.
That that was what I took that anger, and now I'm walking to the registration table and I'm
Right.
it's up and out. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Was I
Ooh, yes.
Mhm.
And you can tell it's splashing.
Right.
That's the piece that I noted was it's splashing. It's coming back. Like
Mhm.
splashing not only hits other people, it hits you too. And
Right.
so it's not only affecting other people, it's making it worse the more that we stay in that. It's affecting us too. So and all
And
those colors and oh,
yeah. And sadly, I that would have been a perfect learning lesson, a teaching lesson, teachable moment for my daughter if I had handled it properly. Then we could
mm,
have talked about how angry he was and how to deal with people that are that angry, and it just I missed that opportunity.
yeah, as a parent, I'm the same way. When we're in the moment, and most of the time, I don't take those teaching moments because I don't really want my kids to know that's how I handled it,
Mm.
which I guess if they're overseeing it, then they kind of know.
He's there, yes. So
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, mom,"
Right.
poor thing. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. One of the purposes in me doing this 100 days, 100 emotions is for us to become more comfortable with sharing our emotions, us to
Mm,
become more aware of what they feel like, how we can use them to help not only ourselves, but like with our kids. If I
mm,
was open enough to say to my kid, this happened, I know you saw it, I screwed up. Let me tell you what I learned from it. Let me tell you what it taught me to
mm.
go through that. It was embarrassing for you. You know what? It was embarrassing for me too. And, to be able to share that with kids, I think is huge
Right.
because they don't know enough about emotions. As little kindergartners, we show them the pictures of the faces.
Mhm.
This is happy, this is sad, this is angry. But there's so much more to it than that. That's not living it.
Right.
So that's one of my purposes in doing this is to help us live it, work through it, learn from it, and use it to help teach others the same. So Oh my goodness, this has been so good, Faith Ann. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for letting me tell my denim jumper story.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. I do want to take a minute to make sure people know how to get a hold of you if they would like to get in touch with you. Faith Ann owns Window Cleaning Plus, so
Yes.
they clean windows for residential places, businesses. And what is it you're looking for right now to be
Right
connected to?
now, yeah, I would love an introduction to a property manager, a
Property managers.
commercial property manager.
Okay. Commercial property managers who are looking to have their windows clean and kept clean.
Right.
Like Faith Ann does this, they keep them clean. It's not just a one time thing unless you want it to be a one time thing.
Right.
Um, she will take care of you for sure. She does a lot of businesses in town here in Norman, and I have heard a lot of good things about her and her business. So check
Thank you.
that out too. Of course. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Please, if you want to know more or would like to be involved, please let me know. I have room for you. And tell me what anger means to you. I would love to know because, Faith Ann shared her story. I shared a little bit of mine, but anger affects everyone differently. I love that Rick shared that quote. I want more things like that. Tell me how anger affects you. Maybe share a story with us if you feel comfortable doing that. I would love to hear more stories because I feel like the more people share and are open about this type of thing, the more it's going to be more people are going to learn from it, and so that's our purpose here. So tell me if you're watching live or on the replay, and please join us tomorrow for day 6 of Another Emotion. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.